Broadcasting from Cincinnati, you're listening to the Ringside Reporter Podcast. All news from the world of boxing right here.
Well, I'm talking to you the way I want to talk to you.
Now, here's your host, Eric Lorda.
And we are live. Welcome to the Ringside Reporter Show. We get the latest boxing news, and we're coming to you live with a very special Thursday show. My name is Eric Lorta, and I'm here with my co-host Joe Habib, and we have a great show for you today. And we are joined by Trisha Morrison, the widow of the former heavyweight champion Tommy the Duke Morrison. For those of you who don't know, Trisha's been involved in a court case against Quest Diagnostics and the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Trisha, I'm going to let you. There's so much to unpack here. I was thinking about this before the show. There was so much to unpack here. Let me start from the top. Okay. Let me go through the kind of the chain of events, and then we're gonna pass it over to you. And I want you to correct everything that I say. Okay, because I'm sure there's going to be some corrections somewhere in there. And then we're going to let you give your story, your side of the story, and then where you are, because you just got some news, I believe, on this Court of Appeals. You got some news just recently. So let me start with, let's see here. Back, I guess it was in 1996, Tommy Morrison was set to fight Arthur Weathers. He was informed that he tested positive for HIV. Now, a couple of weeks later, he had a press conference. In the press conference, he said that he took another test and tested positive again. The test confirmed that he was positive for HIV. In the ESPN 30 for 30 show, which Trisha, I know your feelings on this, but we kind of got to go through it. Okay. Tommy Morrison's mother told ESPN 30 for 30 that Tommy Morrison suspected that he had HIV already. His mother told him, don't you think you ought to get tested? Of course, I'm paraphrasing all this. Morrison responded, basically, I can't right now. I have to concentrate on my career. She also claimed, Morrison's mother, Diana, also claimed that he has a HIV doctor in Kansas City. His T-cell count, according to the documentary and medical records that were pulled up, was low on multiple blood tests in 1999. In 2007, at the divorce hearing, his wife admitted that Tommy Morrison had admitted that he was HIV positive on the stand. The one thing, I guess, to kick it over to you for just a second here, your lawsuit is basically, you're basically saying that Tommy Morrison never had HIV. Is that what the gist of the lawsuit is?
All right, Eric, thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you, man.
You guys have been great. You've been following me actually on Twitter, which I really appreciate. Everything that you've said just now, there are answers for every single thing that you just said. All right. There's everything under oath that's been mentioned is different to what you have actually said as well. I don't know how you want me to proceed, but I am just going to go for it. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. So when Tommy died, September 1, 2013, I had them draw blood. They asked me if I wanted an autopsy, and I said, absolutely. I want to know if he had the virus, HIV. And so they drew blood, and that was on September 1st. On September 2nd, the media went absolutely crazy, saying because Tommy had been diagnosed with HIV on February 10th, 1996, because Tommy had been immediately suspended from boxing in Nevada on February 10th, 1996, he died of AIDS, is what they said. So that's what came out in the media on September 2nd. So on September 17th of 2013, I get a phone call from the head of the infectious disease department in Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm given the results over the phone. And I'm told he was negative for the virus. He did not have HIV. So I said, yeah, okay, send me the report. So on September 24th, 2013, they send me the post-mortem report with written on here, final diagnosis, no HIV, no retroviruses, which is the scientific term for HIV. Okay, so there I am in total shock. I've got the report. So I then go to the physician in Las Vegas and I say to him, okay, you better have good medical malpractice insurance, because when my husband died, he did not have HIV. So the physician then went through his attorney and said, I never diagnosed Tommy with HIV. Here is the email thread, which is in court records. And here it clearly states that Dr. Voy never, ever diagnosed Tommy with HIV on February 10th, 1996. And as you know, only a physician can tell you whether you have the virus. It's not a lab report. It's not a mother. It's not an ex-wife. It's not even a widow. It's not even me. So anyway, so then I'm thinking, okay, the physician said no HIV. The post-mortem said no HIV. Also, the antemortem that I had done, we had drawn Tommy's blood in 2012, sent it to Boston, Massachusetts General Hospital. They photo imaged Tommy's blood. I don't know if you can see it there, but it's all in court records. And there is no HIV in Tommy's blood. And when you compare it to a CDC vial of blood, you can see there's dots there. That's HIV. So Tommy's blood was completely clear of HIV when he was alive. So then I went to the test kit companies and I said, hey, you know, your test diagnosed my husband with HIV. And each manufacturer said, no, we don't diagnose the virus. We don't draw the blood. We don't analyze it. We just make the test kits. And inside the test kits, there is a packet insert that says what our limitations are and what the intended use of our tests are. So no, we don't diagnose HIV. So it led me down the path then to ask the Nevada Commission what happened on February 10th, 1996. You guys immediately, indefinitely, worldwide suspended Tommy from the sport of boxing. And you said to the world that he had HIV, and that was the reason why he was suspended. So I got no response from them. Then I went to Quest Labs, the lab that did the testing in 1996. I asked them the same thing. I said, you know, he died with no HIV. A post-mortem said no HIV. An ante-mortem said no HIV. The physician in Vegas said no HIV. You know, do you have the test results that say that he had HIV? So I didn't get a response from them, not an immediate response. So I then went to attorneys in Las Vegas and I said, you know, can you help me, please? Because there's something not quite right with what happened. And I was literally told that I would never find an attorney in Vegas that would ever go up against the Nevada Attorney General's office or the Nevada Commission or against Quest Diagnostics, one of the largest labs in the world. So I then filed my own lawsuit. And I had to do that directly with the courts in Las Vegas. It's the federal court, federal district court. And it's a complaint for negligence, defamation, libel, slander, fraud, negligent misrepresentation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, intentional interference with a contract. So bear in mind, guys, I had to research how to even file a pro se complaint with the court. So now we're in court and everybody has to provide their initial disclosures, which is all the evidence that they have on file. Okay, so Quest Labs, they produce for the first time ever in court and to the Nevada Commission a lab report that was from February 10th, 1996. And it's an exhibit, and it's exhibit QDI1, Quest Diagnostics number 1. Now, there's some things on this lab report that are not quite right. For example, the ordering physician of this test is Dr. Robert Voy on this lab report. Dr. Voy never ordered the test. And then you've got also that it's reported to a Dr. Russell. Well, Tommy never knew a Dr. Russell. Who is Dr. Russell? We don't know. And then also on this lab report, it says that he's 99 years old. And the commission said that they never even saw this lab report. So in the initial disclosures also came out the State Athletic Commission Physicians Report, which is a report that the physicians belonging to the commission have to complete at weigh-in, and it's exhibit TM0110. And on there, the physicians for the commission are signing Tommy off as being fit to fight that night. So, you know, all this is coming out in court records. Also in court records, 10 years later, July 11th, 2006, the commission have also disclosed TM0015, and this is actually lifting the suspension that was placed on Tommy on February 10th, lifting the medicals that caused that suspension. All right. This did not come out in the media. I don't know how long you guys have been in business, but I know that you never told anybody about this document back in 2006. So this came out as well. So it made me wonder, what did they cancel his license with? For what reason? You know, if we've now taken off the medicals, and that means that they didn't deny him a license because of his medicals. They lifted that part, didn't tell the world, but they lifted that part. So throughout the lawsuit, they have stated that he failed 5 statutes. At least one of them they mentioned 138 times throughout the lawsuit. It was Nevada Athletic Code, which is NAC 467.027 section 3B, and I have it memorized. And the reason why I have it memorized is because they placed that in every document 138 times that they filed under oath in court, and not only just in federal court, but the Ninth Circuit Court and the US Supreme Court. That's how far this case has gone, and stated that Tommy failed that, and that's the reason why they denied him a license. And so I then looked up with a legislator 2 years ago, because it worried me that NAC code worried me, because they kept mentioning it, that this was the reason why. It wasn't because he had HIV. Suddenly it's not because he had HIV. It's because he failed to abide by that regulation. So
what exactly was the regulation that he failed? I mean, they said they suspended him, but what was the regulation? What did he violate?
Okay, well, he didn't violate anything. The regulation in 1996, which is supported by documents now from the legislator, they're stamped with these wax stamps, and I retrieved them from the legislator. The regulation in 1996 was that you had to be mentally and physically fit to get a boxing license. That's it. And you had to do your medicals. So Dr. Voy did the required medicals for Tommy, and also sent that through to the commission and said that Tommy was mentally and physically fit to receive a license and box on February, for the fight in February in Las Vegas. What NAC 467.027 section 3B states is that you have to have blood drawn for an HIV test hepatitis C test, right? That was not law in 1996, because this confirms that Mark Ratner and Dr. Elias Garnham, Colleen Patchen, who provided also an affidavit in this case, were actually at the minutes of the meeting getting this law passed 22 months later, in December of 1997. So throughout the lawsuit, they have said that Tommy violated that rule. That rule never existed. And that's something that has never, ever come out in the ESPN documentary or even the media. So they stated that he violated it. Then in this lawsuit, document 140 that came out, and it was authored by the Nevada Commission. It was authored by Bob Bennett, who is in charge of the Nevada Commission. He's stating that Tommy was never suspended from boxing on February 10th, 1996, never suspended, which we know is not true.
Well, was he, let me ask you a question now. Was he suspended or was his license revoked? Because there's a big difference. Now, Las Vegas can suspend him, but all the other boxing councils, if Vegas suspends you and says, hey, listen, you're not fighting here, 9 times out of 10, every other boxing council is going to follow suit. So he may not have been suspended per se, or was he suspended worldwide per se? I don't know.
He was. He was suspended worldwide by the Nevada Commission. All you have to do is look at the Showtime interview that they did with Mark Ratner in 1996, that night of the fight, and he said that Tommy is suspended worldwide by the Nevada Commission. Worldwide, okay? Now, you are completely right. There is a difference, you know, between being suspended and having your license revoked. Well, in this lawsuit, the license number was C1306. So it's on some of the paperwork, C1306, and then it's been crossed out in other paperwork stating that he was never given C1306 as the license because he failed the NAC 467.027 section 3B, right? So if you look at the case of Jarrell Miller in New York, when he supposedly failed his tests there, the New York Commission could not suspend him because he had never been given a license in the first place.
Right.
Right? Okay. Yep. So I've actually thrown that into this case because in 1996, neither then could the commission suspend Tommy Morrison indefinitely or anything, because they were saying that they never even gave him the license C1306. So they've kind of muddied the waters themselves. The commission also said that there was no Don King contract, and Tommy had signed a multi-million-dollar contract with Don King. It is Exhibit Z with the court. I had to track it down, and in fact, Tommy's son, Kenzie, tracked it down for me. So that's filed in the court of law now. The commission also said that, you know, they could only come up actually with Arthur Weathers' boxing contract for that night in this lawsuit. It's the official boxing contract by the Nevada Athletic Commission. It's Articles of Agreement, and it's one of their exhibits. But they didn't bring up the exhibit of Tommy and Tommy's purse. And so they said, well, there was not a contract even for him to fight that night. Well, that's strictly a lie, because how could they have issued Arthur Stormy's Weathers contract without knowing what the purses were, without looking at some form of contract? So they basically destroyed evidence that Tommy was ever going to be fighting that night. Now, what's concerning, Eric, is that even in their documents that the Nevada Commission produced, Arthur Weathers actually informed Don King on February 2nd and again on February 5 that he was not going to be able to fight anyway on February 10th, because he had sinus issues. And he had actually given a doctor's script to Don King, which the commission had in their hands because they produced it in this case, showing that he was never even going to be fighting that night. So that famous photo shoot that you see of Don King holding up the two guys' arms at the photo shoot the night before the fight at the weigh-in, that was never going to happen. It was obviously never going to happen that day. And there was no replacement opponent found for Arthur Stormy Weathers. Plus, then the next fight that Arthur was supposed to fight, he canceled that too because he wasn't well. So there's something very strange there.
Okay, so let me jump in here. So what you're saying is that who's telling you now that there was no fight planned on that day? Now we saw that, and like you said, he was on the card. Don King. Clearly he had, signed the contract. He was there. He had went through a training camp. Everybody knew he was there. But now it was at the commission saying that he wasn't even supposed to be on the card.
For who? Stormy or Tommy?
Both.
It's hard to know what the commission is saying, today, or what they were thinking back then. But what they produced in court is clear evidence that Stormy's own physician was not clearing him to fight that fight against Tommy because Stormy had sinusitis issues and he was not going to be able to fight for at least 2 to 3 weeks. It says on there. So whether he was still on the card or not, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but there certainly was not a replacement after Stormy told Don King that he was not going to be able to fight that night in February.
I remember, and Beeb, I think you do too. I remember watching this fight. I remember watching the card. The only thing I remember, I don't even know who the main was on the card. I don't know who the main event was or anything like that. The only thing I remember about the card, and the only thing that stuck with me, even after all these years, is Ferdy Pacheco coming on and saying that Tommy Morrison, he came out of the beginning of the broadcast, says Tommy Morrison will not be able to fight tonight. He had it was a medical. Like he wasn't cleared. I think he put it. He didn't try to, but the one thing that got everybody like, whoa, is he said, and for violation of HIPAA and all that other stuff, he said, well, I hope what I heard was not true. I hope it was a mistake. I hope he gets, and I remember that. And I'm like, what in the world? What do you mean? You hope it's not true? What happened? What did he get diagnosed with? What happened?
So,
So the head of it was Trinidad, that he was the main person on the card. Yeah.
So Trisha, do you think this was just incompetence on their part, or do you feel as though something nefarious was going on behind the scenes here? Because this is very bizarre. There's a lot of information that you're providing, and it seems like you got a very strong case here. And Nevada Commission has made many errors before in the past. They don't have the best track record. So they have made a ton of mistakes, not just with Tommy, but with a lot of fighters, whether it be just for scoring, judging, whatever, or officiating, missing fouls, hand wrap issues. There's been a lot of things going wrong here. So I wouldn't put it past him to make a mistake in this situation either. So what is your take on not only how this transpired, but why did this transpire like this?
Yeah. You're right. They've made a big mistake. There's more stuff in the case here. For example, like Dr. Margaret Goodman, she's now in charge of VADA, right? Yeah. So she's involved in this. 2007, she comes out with an article that Boxing Scene and all the media and the worldwide mainstream media came out because she didn't even want Tommy to do a comeback. So, even if the Nevada Commission made a mistake in 1996, it carried on. It carried on for the rest of Tommy's life. In 2007, to stop Tommy's comeback or potential comeback, Dr. Margaret Goodman comes out with something to the media that says, at that point, I contacted renowned Quest Diagnostics pathologist, Dr. John Hyatt. Dr. Hyatt has worked with the Nevada Commission for many years and was the physician who reviewed Morrison's original 1996 HIV results. At my request, Dr. Hyatt reviewed the archived results yet again. He says that they are ironclad and unequivocal. So this worried me too, because I thought finally I had found the doctor that had made the diagnosis in 1996, because it's all over the media. And so I contact the medical advisory board so I can contact Dr. John Hyatt, because knowing already that the doctor that did the physical and the medical requirements for a license said no HIV, right? So no HIV there, no HIV with the postmortem, no HIV with the test kit companies. But here it says he's the one that reviewed it. And it comes from Dr. Margaret Goodman. And I'm thinking, you know, Dr. Margaret Goodman is supposed to be this prestigious doctor. She runs VADA, all the testing. And I'm thinking, okay, she obviously can't get it wrong. And I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. Plus, she's getting inducted, guys, all right, into the International Boxing Hall of Fame this year, which, you know, I don't agree with. So I thought I'd throw that in. So I contact the medical advisory board just so I can get Dr. John Hyatt, the world-renowned Quest Diagnostics pathologist and physician, contact information so I can approach him. And so the medical advisory board come back to me and they tell me he is neither a pathologist nor is he a physician. So this woman, Dr. Margaret Goodman, lied again in records throughout the media, and I've caught her. So here we are now. Not even Dr. Hyatt.
So the guy,
Tommy.
so the guy from Quest that Margaret Goodman said, we're going to have this guy review the findings at Quest, and he was a guy that worked for Quest. Who she claimed, did she say he was a doctor or he was just like a what?
What she said was Dr. Hyatt has worked with the Nevada Commission for many years, many years, and was the physician who reviewed Morrison's original 1996 HIV results. All
so
right,
she did call him a doctor, which could be an education doctor. You could be, but she did call him a physician.
Right. She called him. At that point, I contacted renowned Quest pathologist Dr. John Hyatt, and then she did. She said, and was the.
Yep.
She froze up.
She froze up. She's. All right, I'll tell you what, she froze up. Let me let's see here. Let me remove her, and then we can see if we can put her back in, and if that makes any difference. Trisha, are you there? You were breaking up on us here.
Their internet's issue with the internet connection.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Here, let's see. Let me see if we can contact her real quick. Okay. All right, I'm going to have her try to reconnect. If that doesn't work, what we'll do is I'll just have her call in and we can do it over the phone. Because this is pretty interesting, man. I mean, this is real interesting here.
One doctor orders the test, but it has to be read by a lab physician. So
right.
If it wasn't read by a lab physician or, a nurse practitioner, then it's illegal. I can't go into a lab and read a blood test. I'm not qualified.
Well, that's against the law. Yeah, that's
against the law.
Right.
against the law. It's
well, just like when you go to get an X-ray, the X-ray techs or whatever can probably see if it's broken or not. But they're not allowed to tell you.
Yeah.
You know, they're not allowed to tell you anything.
No, they can't. People that administer the MRI, they can't read your MRI for you.
No.
So.
All right. I have texted her. I messaged her. And we'll give her just a few minutes and see how it goes. But you know, I tell you what, yeah, it's a little odd because, and I think the question that I want to know is, okay, so he was diagnosed in '96. What was it, like a couple of years later or a couple of weeks later, he had a second opinion done and got the same result. And like all through the 90s, he had the same result. They claim there was even, and I'm going to talk to her about this as well. And here she is. Let's see here. There she is. Sorry about that. That's okay.
I'm back. You know what?
happens.
That probably was Tommy like getting really upset, right? Yeah, he's pretty ticked off, I'm sure, with Dr. Margaret Goodman.
Let me ask you a question. So
yeah,
he was diagnosed on February, I guess, in February of '96. Okay, on that card, on that Trinidad card. And they said, yeah, he has it. They would not let him fight. Okay.
right.
Now, a couple of weeks, I think it was a couple of weeks or a couple of days later, I think it was a couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong, that he came out and held a press conference. Right around the same time Magic Johnson had his thing, he kind of had his too. And he came out with a press conference a couple of weeks later, stated that he took another test and he wanted like a second opinion type thing. He said this in the press conference, and that indicated that he was HIV positive.
Right. Now there's a big difference. Go back and have a look. Go back and have a look at Magic Johnson's press conference when he came out and said that he had HIV. Who was standing next to him? It was his physician. And it was his physician that carried on the conference explaining about HIV, right? Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Go back and look at this press conference that was set up in Oklahoma. I think it was February 15th, where Tommy on his own is standing up there saying that he has been told that he definitely has the virus. Right. There is no physician standing there with him. There is in fact, no confirmation throughout the whole of the lawsuit of any report, any physician, any lab that confirms that press conference. Not one. And not one test that confirms that he had the virus on that day of the press conference. Nothing.
So this was just the commission saying this then, without having a doctor's official diagnosis or an official report. This was just something the physician did.
Right. On February 10th, it was just the commission. So there was no, and the standard of care when you get diagnosed with something is the lab lets the physician know. The physician then looks at the lab report, but also does differential diagnosis by doing other testing to rule out any false positives or any other reactions that will trigger a false positive. And then he'll sit with the patient and then he'll say, okay, well, you tested positive for autoimmune disorders, which will trigger a false positive on this test. None of that was done.
Let me ask you. Go ahead, Eve.
That's okay. Maybe you won't be able to answer this question, but why did they do this? I mean, I just don't understand. What would be the motive for them to do this? Did Tommy have an axe to grind with anybody in the business? This is just so bizarre to me how they would ruin a man's career. Did they make a mistake and they were too embarrassed to admit it later? Is that something that may be the reason behind it? I mean, I'm just baffled by why this went on the way it did. That's just crazy.
I mean, really good questions there. Did they make a mistake and admit it later? Well, February 10th, 1996, they said he had HIV and that he was indefinitely medically suspended worldwide. All right. In this lawsuit in 2020 and 2021, they're saying that he was never diagnosed with HIV and they never suspended him.
Wow.
So, and that's in court records, right? So 1996, you've got everything all over the media. 2007, you've got a repeat of everything that happened in 1996. And in 2020, now under oath, they're saying, well, we never suspended him. And actually, we never said he had HIV.
If you had to guess, why do you think that went down like that? Why do you think that he was suspended? Why do you think his license was taken away? What basis would they have to give him a, to say, hey, he took the test and he failed the HIV test or whatever? Given the fact that he just signed the contract with Don King, he had a fight lined up with Mike Tyson. He was going to fight Arthur Weathers. He was going to steamroll Arthur Weathers and the next opponent, and then to get to Tyson on that 3-fight deal.
Right. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Millions of dollars. That's a lot of money. Yes.
He just,
okay.
I'm the only one here that got good internet.
I know, right?
No, there's obviously interferences. People don't want to hear all this.
That's right.
Okay, so he signed a multi-million-dollar contract with Don King.
Right. There was so much money on this.
A lot of money on this. And the commission said, no, there was never such a contract. Right. So that's really kind of weird to say that. Mike Tyson was just coming out of jail. Right. The chances of Tommy beating Mike Tyson are very strong. All right. I mean, Tommy
matchup. It was a good style matchup.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tommy said to me, he told me exactly how he would beat him, right? And then he said, no matter what, he said it would have been a good fight.
Oh,
all right.
Would have been a Hall of Fame fight.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing.
So there was a lot of money on the table. What's really strange is, we all know when Don King gets involved in something. I tried to contact Don King actually back in 2014, and every time I called down to, I think, Fort Lauderdale, he has some kind of a woman gatekeeper there, right? And every time I called, she hung up on me, and I told her who I was, and she said, look, you're recording this phone call, I'm hanging up on you. And I wasn't recording the phone call. So for some reason he doesn't want to talk to me. I can't imagine why.
So let me ask you, like in the documentary, in the 30 for 30, and his mom, they interviewed his mom, and that's where I saw a lot of his mom being interviewed and everything like that. They interviewed her, and she says, that he knew he had this for a while. She said he suspected.
He suspected. Right.
And then she said that he had an HIV doctor that he was seeing in Kansas City. Why would the mom say all this if it wasn't accurate? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what purpose does she have to actually stretch this out?
Right. No purpose whatsoever. Let's remember that his mother is not a physician, and his mother actually hasn't even done an affidavit in this lawsuit to support any of that. And there is no physician in Kansas City in previous to 1996 that he was attending. There is no test on the record showing that he had the virus. Actually, Tony Holden, who wasn't Tommy's promoter or manager, even though the media seemed to portray him as that, he came out with something after the ESPN 30 for 30, clarifying the fact that no, Tommy never had HIV in 1989 until the Nevada Commission came out with it, right? And I still have that, and I have posted that on Twitter, so you're welcome to include that in this interview at the end. And he clearly says, and of course he would be there, He would have been there between 1990 and 1996 in some form of fashion. And there is no proof whatsoever. So to suspect compared to a definitive diagnosis, ESPN had an agenda, right? They had an agenda in their documentary. And the reason why is because HBO was pulling out, and ESPN wanted the contract. ESPN Plus wanted the contract to do everything in Vegas for the commission. And they got it. And they actually told me when they came to interview me that this would be a great start to their boxing in Vegas to bring this documentary out. And I'm thinking, yeah, it really would be good to get the truth out. But of course, the truth never came out. They never even mentioned the post-mortem or the ante-mortem or the negative AIDS results. So basically what the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary did was solidify the initial narrative of 1996 all the way through. That Tommy was diagnosed with HIV in Vegas. He was kicked out of boxing in Vegas. And now in 2020, none of that is true. So they had an agenda, and it worked really well. And quite honestly, it's going to cost a lot of money for that repair to be done, because the world still believes that Tommy was diagnosed with HIV by the commission, and still believe that he was indefinitely worldwide suspended by the commission. And of course, that's not true.
So let me ask you this. The doctor that did the postmortem test, and he said that he didn't have HIV, right? Did he come up with another cause of death? Or was he just there to say that he didn't die of HIV and AIDS? Did he have another theory on why he passed away, or what was his assessment of it all?
Right. Yeah. And that's a really good question. A year before Tommy died, UNMC, University of Nebraska Medical Center, which is an excellent facility, is one of the very top infectious disease locations in the nation. And they deal with Ebola, COVID, HIV, and AIDS. So it was the best place for us to have ended up in. And they did the differential diagnosis, right? They did the testing for AIDS diseases that you would get if you have HIV. So when you have HIV, if it progresses into AIDS, which is what the media are portraying, you would have certain diseases like cryptococcus, histoplasmosis, all different kinds of diseases. Tommy was tested for all those diseases, and the test came back negative. And some of those negative results, the defendants withheld, all right, from the court case. What they did was they subpoenaed Tommy's medical records from certain facilities, and they received a disc, an original disc from that hospital. And what they did then was they would print off everything that was on that disc. Then they would take out what they didn't want, and they would scan what they did want the court to see and burn a completely different disc, and then include that in court records with the affidavit of records, which is what it's called. It's kind of like a certificate saying that what we've provided you is correct. And that's where they screwed up. The affidavit of records would say, we've sent you 1,928 pages. And then what was actually on the disc was 1,400 pages, but still had the affidavit of records, the certificate of records on there. So they have withheld documentation. So Tommy was, they'd already done that. They'd already done an exclusion of AIDS diseases with Tommy before he died. And so the only thing left to find was, where's the virus? If you have the virus, which really by 2013, your whole body would be infested with the virus. Mm. It was nowhere in the virus to be seen, nowhere in his cerebral spine fluid, which is CSF, nowhere in his saliva, nowhere even in his sperm, right? Not even in his blood, not even in macrophages. And that's where you would find it, right? You would find the virus nowhere.
Well, let me ask you a question.
What he died of, let me just
Yeah,
answer
no,
the
go ahead,
question.
please.
What he died of was cardiac arrest,
Yes.
septicemia, septic shock, and multi-organ failure. And in 2011, he came out of jail with an insect bite to his chest. That was the beginning.
Wow.
That was the beginning of the downfall of Tommy Morrison. It wasn't anything else. A surgeon had left 12 foot of surgical gauze tightly packed in Tommy's chest. And Beep, how tall are you?
About 6'1".
Okay, so twice your length, tightly packed into Tommy's chest after surgery on December 1. That's when the surgeons left the gauze in Tommy's chest for 8 days to rot, literally rot inside his chest. Again, you won't see this on ESPN 30 for 30 because they didn't want to portray exactly what the downfall was. On December 8th, the home health nurse came to our home, and we had just got out of hospital the night before. A 1-hour surgery turned into be an 8-day ordeal at the hospital. The home health nurse came the next morning, and she just wanted to change a small bandage on Tommy's chest, like a 4x4 it's called. So she took it off, and I was standing there. A friend of Tommy's was standing there. Tommy was sitting on a stool in the kitchen. No anesthetic, no pain pills, no nothing. It was supposedly just to change over the bandage. And as she pulled the bandage off, I said, whoa, wait, before you replace it, there's something sticking out of his chest. And she said, no, that's all I've got. I just need to put the bandage back on. And I said, no, there is something sticking out of his chest. And it was literally like a little piece of hair, a little thread sticking out the side of Tommy's chest on the right side where he'd had surgery. And so she pulled on it very gently and pulled and pulled and pulled, and out came 12 foot of tightly packed surgical gauze in Tommy's chest. And
I saw that video. Yeah, I saw that video too. It was awful.
And that night, Tommy's right leg gave way, and the chest surgery was on the right-hand side of his chest. His leg gave way, and his head went straight directly through the wall, the sheetrock of a wall, and he fell on his neck and fell to the ground. That was the beginning of the downfall. For the next 21 months, we were in and out of hospital with septic shock, and it wasn't until November of 2012 that they found that half his voice box was actually paralyzed from the fall, which meant that any liquids or food coming down his throat would automatically cause pneumonia in him. So because it would go down the wrong canal. So he fought that for 21 months of septic shock. And normally when people have septic shock, they're dead within a week. So on the death certificate, that is what he died of. And it was horrific. He was definitely a fighter all the way through to the end. In addition to that, they also found that he had autoimmune disorders. And when you look at the records that are on file in this court, no other physician during the time of Tommy's first and second wife, in their depositions, you'll see that all the physician did was he took off a lab report off the fax machine, read it to them, and basically said that Tommy was going to die without doing any differential diagnosis of autoimmune disorders. And one of the autoimmune disorders Tommy had was Addison's disease or disorder, stuff that is not even contagious in the ring, but that would trigger false positives, right?
So let me just say this, Trisha. So because he had all these issues going on, would he even still be medically fit to fight because he had all this going on?
Yes. I mean, when can you cancel or tell a boxer that he can't fight because he has sinusitis or rheumatoid arthritis? When can you do that? You can't, right?
Really? No.
Right, exactly. You know, why give him a test and tell him he's got a virus when the test doesn't even detect the virus? And that comes not from me, it comes directly from the manufacturer of the test kit company.
Yeah.
You know, if you tell somebody that they're positive for HIV, what are you telling them exactly? Are you telling them that they've got the virus, or are you telling them that they're positive for antibodies? And antibodies are not contagious. You know, you should all know by now, with all the COVID testing going on, you know, if you're testing positive for antibodies, does that not mean that you are immune? Right? So, you know, the commission should not interpret results, and they clearly did. And the lab should not even think that they can provide a test report stating somebody has a virus on a test that does not detect the virus. So they've all been caught out. You know, they've lied about the rule, they've lied about the testing. You know, what else can they lie about? You know, as this case keeps going on, each person has got perjured testimony, and they've lied to 4 judges in Vegas because 3 judges recused themselves. We're on the 4th judge in Vegas. They lied to 3 judges in the Ninth Circuit Court back in 2017. And then when I refiled an appeal, they lied again to 18 judges in the Ninth Circuit Court. Then I took it to the US Supreme Court. They lied to 8 justices, which is what they're called there. And then Kavanaugh came on board. And so I was able to refile a petition again. And they lied to 9 justices. Now we're back in federal court. And the reason why we were back in federal court is because one of the facilities at University of Nebraska Medical Center have informed me that they have a piece of biological evidence, which I thought, great. You know, if you have biological evidence, let's do DNA HIV testing, okay? Because the world seems to not know about the postmortem, and the defendants don't seem to care about the postmortem. They don't care about the antemortem, no HIV. They don't care about the negative AIDS diseases. They don't seem to care that there was never a diagnosis made. So this is almost kind of like Tommy's left hook coming in saying, all right, guys, we're in this round. Here's evidence, test it, exonerate me, right? And under the DNA Act, which I had to research as well, there is no reason why it should not be tested. So I filed a motion in Nevada, and the defendants came back and said I was vexatious, right? And I had to look the word vexatious up because I have never been told I've been vexatious.
As Don King what it means.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
He probably knows it. He probably knows what it means. He used it.
Probably uses that word every day, you know.
So I had to look up vexatious, and I guess it means kind of you're a little bit unruly, right? I'm not unruly. All I'm doing is exposing the truth.
Cantankerous. You're cantankerous. Right? You're cantankerous.
I'm cantankerous too. I'll have to look that one up.
Same thing. Same thing.
And so they spent 8 pages saying how vexatious I was. This is Quest Diagnostics, and saying that tissue does not exist. So then the Nevada Commission said, well, you know, there's no point testing it because we never diagnosed him with HIV anyway, and we never suspended him. And I'm thinking, what's that got to do with it? We already now know that. And then the judge denies my motion. So, okay.
Let me ask you a question. Can Quest, so Quest is Quest saying they never diagnosed him, or who is saying they never diagnosed him?
Okay, now that's a really good question again. Quest in their documents are saying that they're not in the business of diagnosing people with any condition or any disease.
They just give you the test. You know, they say either yay or nay.
Quest,
and this is, you guys interpret it the way you want. This is what the test read. Boom.
Quest sends all the tests they do to labs, and they outsource their tests to labs to read the results.
Well,
Right.
Quest is the lab.
What I was told by people at Quest is they essentially they are a lab, but they're not a lab that reads the results. They don't read results, because when I get tests done at Quest, they send them out, and it has a doctor's name beside the results. Because
Right.
I've gotten HIV tests done before, and the doctor's name is always to the left of the. Well, everyone gets them. Part of life. So everyone.
I'm just saying.
Why I look so good. That's why I look so good. I'm 52 years old, and I look like I'm 40 because I keep up with my health. So,
all right, now on that lab report that they produced for the 1996 test, it does not have a signature or a name.
Not a name to the left of it.
Not a name to the left of it.
Yeah,
okay,
that's a flag right there. It's a huge flag.
Okay, now let's go on to the next flag. Is that they produced an affidavit from the pathologist that works for Quest that read the test. So when you just said that they send it out, no, they don't always send it out, right? And okay, as a little kicker here, I don't know if you remember. But I think it was even in the ESPN thing, the media was swarming, all right, before Tommy was even told that he had HIV. Do you remember that part at all? And that they had to get him out of Vegas quick because the media was swarming.
I don't remember that, but I
remember they did tell him to get out of Vegas. I think they did tell. They said when he got tested or whatever, he said they gave him his results. Says I guess they told his manager or whatever. Hey,
he was not his manager. Okay,
right. The guy Holden or whatever. Yes.
Right. Tony Holden was not his manager.
But they were friends, though. They were friends, correct? Can we say that they were friends? Him and
all right, but BB, what's your name?
Joe.
Joe. Okay, Joe. When you do a test, you don't expect Quest to go and tell your friend down the street, right? Your results.
No. I mean, but Tony had admiration. He admired Tommy. I think we can say that.
Right. Okay. So coming back to the media swarming at the time that Tommy was being told. How could the media be swarming if Tommy hasn't even been told? All right. So the person that read the results, her name was Elizabeth Iola.
Okay.
No MD.
She was a pathologist, but she was also married to Kevin Iola.
Ioli, the journalist?
Yes.
Kevin Ioli?
Yes.
Whoa.
Wow. Yeah. So how did the media know, and why were the media swarming before Tommy even got the results? Why are the mainstream media, boxing media, not touching this? And who was it that told whoever the results before Tommy ever got them? And who was it who called Tommy's room to ask him now what's going to happen before Tommy even knew?
So, I mean, you keep putting this case before a federal court. It's at a federal court level now, right? Is that what you're saying?
It's always been in federal court.
Okay, so they keep allowing you to put this case forth. So they must believe you have a case, because if they're going to allow you to put this case forth and they're going to keep reviewing it, then it seems to me like they must think that there's something there. So it's frustrating, because if they're going to keep allowing you to put it, because if they didn't think that you had a case, they would just dismiss it, and they wouldn't allow you to bring it forth. But they keep allowing you to bring it forth. So it's frustrating that that you can't get any type of closure from them out of this. It's really frustrating, even for me as an observer, because you're constantly putting this forth, and it's like, what more can you do? What more can you show them? Because
Yeah.
are you getting any help doing all this, or are you just doing all this research and getting all this information yourself? Because by the end of this, you may be
You
qualified
should be
to
a
be
lawyer. I tell you
be
what,
a lawyer,
a medic, everything else. You
this
know,
may be, you could probably get a law degree off of this.
Right. Yeah, I should do an honorary degree. Yeah, I'm doing it all myself. It's not been easy. It's been 8 years. As I've mentioned in other interviews, I've had to research boxing, the sweet science, then the actual science behind the testing, and then the law, how to file a document, who to send it to, when to file it, and how to reply. And it's been a lot of work, but I haven't been able to get an attorney that will go up against people like the Don Kings and the commission and the lab. So all I've done is produce the truth. And why hasn't their attorney produced the truth?
So you don't have an attorney? I mean, you're doing all this
No.
yourself? I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so you're doing, wow.
Yeah. And each court, Eric, requires different format. So federal court requires so many pages and a font size. Then the Ninth Circuit Court wants you to do it their way. And then the US Supreme Court wants it in a little booklet format. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of research.
How are you keeping up with like the legal fees? I mean, are you getting help with any kind of legal fees or anything like that? Or is this just all,
I probably own shares in Federal Express now, because everything I filed has to be mailed in. I'm not on the electronic filing system. Attorneys are on that. So, I have spent a lot of money on filing. Obviously, nothing on an attorney because no attorney will come forward. But where we are now is with this piece of evidence that the judge in Vegas threw out. I filed a motion, and that was a little piece of work too, because my appeal arrived a few days late because I was hit with a polar vortex storm in the Midwest, and it delayed my package to the court in Vegas. So it took 2 months to appeal the appeal. And again, the defendants went in there with their gloves on saying, she's vexatious. This is a frivolous request. Don't waste your time anymore, blah, blah, blah. And the Ninth Circuit Court, I was just amazed. They didn't listen to the defendants. In fact, one of the judges on the 3-judge panel was the judge that they had lied to 4 years ago, 5 years ago in court. So this time he threw it back to Nevada and said, decide on whether you're going to grant the appeal. And if you grant the appeal, it's going to be in the Ninth Circuit. So within a day, Nevada granted my appeal. And so now where we stand in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco is you have my appeal waiting there for the DNA HIV testing on this piece of tissue that was newly discovered and is preserved by the facility in Omaha, Nebraska, waiting on the judge to decide. So that's that. And then as soon as the Ninth Circuit Court let that go onto the record in San Francisco, boom, the next day they come out with docket number 13. And I've always been kind of suspicious of the number 13, but they came out with docket number 13, stating that they're court ordering mediation, right? And I'm thinking, oh, wow, that's interesting, mediation. And so by the 19th of July, I have to respond to the mediator, and the defendants have to respond to the mediator with their thoughts. None of us can talk about it. I can't even talk about the mediation process. First of all, I don't even know how that's going to work. I've got to start researching that. And then on the 21st of July, I have to file an opening brief to start the battle to get the DNA HIV testing on the tissue, right? So there's a lot of things going on right now.
Let me ask you a question, and I know none of us on the panel are doctors, but you seem to know more about HIV and everything like that than I would, because you've had to research this stuff and you've had to do a lot of medical research and that kind of thing. If once you get diagnosed with as HIV positive, is there ever a time after that where I cannot be diagnosed? Like, say your viral load, they talk about like viral load, say that sinks down to a normal level where it's what they call undetectable, and you can even have unprotected sex with it and everything like that. Even when if I went to a doctor, would they still find HIV on me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that's accurate? They would?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
You still have the virus in you. You just won't have the you won't have the high enough antibody load there to be able to transmit it, but you'll still have it. You'll still be like traces.
So then there's no again, at the time of when he passed, and they did the autopsy, they took samples of everything, and just like you alluded on his death certificate, he died of a cardiac arrest. Whereas if you have like AIDS is a lot like say like if you have cancer or something, nobody really dies of cancer. They always die of complications. And the same way with HIV, they always die of some kind of complication. But none of those were even present in him.
No.
None of those were present. None of the things that would lead to that were really present in him. And all of the samples that they did test on, it was all negative.
Right.
How does that
all negative?
How does that work? I mean, I think this is what's baffling. Is it look prior to 2000, like in that 90 range, when he was diagnosed, he was going to doctors because they had to start treatment on him. And I know that one test is not going to do it. Before they start treatment, they have to say, hey, we have to confirm. We have to give you so they confirmed it, and then they started treatment on him. What's the explanation on this? I mean, or do you know, or is it just a mystery to all of us, I guess?
Well, didn't he stop taking the antivirals? Is that correct, or am I wrong in saying that?
He, as much as people say he took them, he never took them. He, I guess there's a way. And don't forget, he was sent to jail, right? I mean, after he got kicked out of boxing, his life spiraled into despair. He took drugs. I mean, it was awful for him. So he did spend some time in jail. In jail, he said that's where he learned how to put, meds in his mouth and not swallow, right? So when Tommy was doing drug rehab, and he was still on Adderall, right, which has got meth in there, he told me to make sure that he swallowed his meds, right? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, because he had never, even though prescribed, he had never actually taken any of his meds, and he'd kept them in his mouth and then under his tongue or wherever, and took them out. There's also tests that you can do which detect whether you are taking the meds or not, right? So, they'd be able to prove whether he had medication or not by bringing forth a lot of lab reports that would show that he was under that medication. They've not produced any of that, right? But as far as the testing goes, like I told you at the very beginning, I contacted the test kit companies. I contacted the company that made the ELISA test. They do not detect nor diagnose the virus. I contacted the Western Blot company. They do not, and they never have confirmed testing that somebody has the virus. And in fact, in 2014, very strangely, after this lawsuit began, the Western Blot was discontinued as a confirmatory test just after this lawsuit, right? Now the PCR test, the one that you're talking about, Eric, with the viral load and the suppression of it. Okay, well, the inventor of the PCR test, his name was Dr. Kerry Mullis, and he was a friend of Tommy's. Dr. Kerry Mullis. And he personally told me and told Tommy that his test, the viral load PCR test, does not detect the virus.
All antibody tests. These are all antibody tests. There's
right.
a test called an RNA test that actually tests for the virus itself, the genetic mutation of the virus.
Right.
So it's called RNA1.
Right. So with this DNA HIV testing, they have to prove, and it was put into the motion, which is probably what they didn't like. They have to prove the virus, first of all, and they have to prove that the antibodies that they say that they have for 20 years diagnosed Tommy with are specific for HIV and not specific for anything else, right? They have to do that. They have to photo image them. They have to actually do a video of the complete testing, and they have to show conclusively that if that person tested positive, they tested specifically positive for the virus. For the HIV virus, not for Epstein-Barr virus, not for the mononucleosis, not for Addison's, not for anything else. They have to exclude all that and specifically test it for the virus itself, or the antibodies specific to the virus. And that is what's right now waiting in the Ninth Circuit Court for them to do.
The RNA test. That's what it is. Yeah.
So okay, so as far as because you always hear the I guess the ESPN version, they really, and I know the 30-30, they really try to make you sound like, you didn't know what you were talking about and this and that you were crazy and all this other stuff. They had said, she doesn't know. She was so oblivious to it. She didn't believe in HIV, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
When you hear this, I mean, do you have any contact with his family or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, his mother and I text. I'm in contact with his aunts and also in contact with Tommy's half brothers and one of Tommy's sons. So yeah, absolutely, we're in contact. So. But again, they had an agenda, right, to make me look at as though I'm the wicked widow that doesn't know anything about it. And yet all I've produced is stuff that other people in the business of HIV/AIDS has produced. I haven't made it up. I'm not the one that drew the blood. I'm not the one that authored the lab reports, right? I'm not the one, that took photo images of Tommy's blood that showed no HIV. I'm not the one. I'm not the one in 1996 that said he had HIV and suspended him. So what's on the dockets are affidavits and records from people that are claiming now that he never had HIV.
So you got a good case.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
So as you say, you talked to his family. Has his family kind of come around and said, "Hey, did they support what you're doing and everything?"
They've always supported. Yes, nobody reports. His mother is a wonderful lady. She's not a physician. She loves her son. She's responsible for Tommy's boxing career, right? So her love for her son is huge. But she's not a physician. She's not a pathologist. She never even drew blood. If my son came to me and said, I suspect I've got HIV, I'd go, well, maybe you should go get it tested. She did the same. Maybe you should go do that, right? She did all the right things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she did an interview in 2020 with WBN World Boxing News that says, she wants the Morrison family settled. She wants it settled with them. And she had no idea that the Nevada Commission lifted the suspension in 2006. She knew that the test could show false positives. She knew that Tommy did take steroids, right? She said all the right things. It just depends on how much emphasis you want to give and take stuff out of context. But she's right there with us. And in fact, her last text to me a week ago, anything I can do to help, Trisha.
No, if you're a person that is predisposed to have heart issues and you take steroids, that's just going to speed up the process. So there's so many things that could have contributed to how he passed. I think that a lot of things need to be looked at here.
A lot of things. I mean, you drive to the hospital on December 1 for surgery, which is what Tommy did. I was in the passenger seat drinking coffee, and he drove to surgery. On December 8th, I have to drive because he cannot drive. It all began with that surgery and leaving the gauze in there. We had no idea there was gauze in there. And it very quickly went into his bloodstream. How many deaths have you heard of boxers in the last 2-3 years? One being run over by a car, right? One dying after whatever, right? And Tommy Morrison can't die of something that happened during surgery. It had to be AIDS, because he was diagnosed with HIV in 96. Well, if you look at the record now, he was never diagnosed with HIV. And then another thing that you need to look on the record is when a physician puts on their history of HIV. So they're actually putting history of HIV. So where does the history go back to? It goes back to February 10th, 1996 in Vegas. That's where the history goes back to. And now there is no history of that.
Yeah.
That's just odd, man. It's just odd, What how far, I mean, realistically, how far are you away, do you think, from a judgment in this? Or do you think it just keeps bouncing from court to court for, forever?
I have no idea. All I know is that they have to do the DNA HIV testing in order to resolve this, right? All I know is that mediation has been set. It really depends on the defendants, how far they want to go with this. July 24th, you've got Fury, right, against who? Wilder?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Well, whose purse is bigger? It's Morrison's purse versus Quest, Nevada Athletic Commission. So, wouldn't that be great if we just got that out of the way and we could concentrate on Wilder and Fury? I'm not going away. I'm not going away. I have the truth. I have all their stuff on record, affidavits. They know I'm not going away.
Do you think it's a lot like fighting City Hall in the sense that, you got these two giants? I mean, like I said, the Nevada State Athletic Commission's huge. Quest Diagnostics, the biggest in the world. I would imagine the biggest in the world, if not, they're definitely the biggest in the U.S. I mean, this is kind of like a David Goliath thing, correct?
Yeah, it seems to be. But then if you look at Quest's checkered history, they have made settlements of $309 million, millions and millions of dollars. Hey, even Dr. Margaret Goodman, when you look at her stuff on the medical advisory board, she did a settlement of over $1 million to someone, right? So these guys already have accounted for lawsuits. They know at some point they have to pay out. As far as the Nevada Athletic Commission goes, don't lie. Don't say a law is responsible for kicking Tommy Morrison out in 1996 now, when the law never existed. They have to abide, they're a government agency, they have to abide by the Administrative Procedures Act. And that act means that before you instill any policy as part of your licensing laws, you have to go through the proper procedures. And it's called the APA, Administrative Procedures Act. And you have to actually collect all the information. You have to go for a meeting. You have to send it out to the public for them to comment on it. You actually have to have the medical sounding backup of why you want to introduce that. And then you have to have a set date where you enforce that law. None of that happened, right? That all began December of 1997, because they knew then that what they had done for the Morrison situation, and in fact, they name it like that in their minutes of their meeting, they knew that they had done wrong. And they've known that they did a wrong to Tommy all the way back to 96.
Yeah. So this is basically people making mistakes and just not wanting to own up to it for whatever reason, whether it be embarrassment or they're just going to look so incompetent and they just don't want to deal with the negative publicity of being looked upon.
Right. And that's why you do a character assassination on me, is so that nobody will listen to me. Nobody will, and they did a great job, and again, it's going to cost a lot of money to just for my reputation, right? Let alone Tommy's. To repair that, so the longer it goes on, the more reputation has to be fixed.
And I'll tell you what, it's funny because you're 100% right with the character assassination. They did a job on you on the 30-30, and it carried over. I saw you on another podcast, and they had the snippets of the thing, and the hosts were just they were real, just real cynical over what you're trying to do and everything like that. Just kind of trying to override you, saying, "Hey, he did have it. That's that, and that." And instead of just coming in here with an open mind and saying, "Hey, I know what I know based on what I've heard and everything like that. I don't know the other side. I don't.
You know what? They did know my side, because they flew in and they interviewed me for 3 hours. I went through everything about the court case. Did they even mention the court case? No. This was in 2017 when they brought out their 30 for 30. I filed the lawsuit July 24th, 2014. They mentioned nothing about the court case. They mentioned nothing about the post-mortem, the ante-mortem, the testing, the gauze in detail. They mentioned none of that. And yet they knew about that. 3 hours of interview, and they put in maybe 30, 40 seconds, right? It just wasn't right. It was an agenda. They wanted to look good in front of the commission because they were taking over boxing from HBO.
Yeah, you were in the documentary for less than 5 minutes, and in those 5 minutes, I mean, it was like, and that's where I got it. So according to the documentary, like was said, when you watch it, it was like, wow, they're probably estranged. I mean, because they talked about you not wanting to give ashes to them or whatever, or getting everything settled, and it just stuff that, like, you're just, when you watch it, you're like, oh wow, there must really be some tension there or something like that. And to hear that they're supporting you and they're behind you, I think that's great, man. I just
Well, yeah, it is. And in fact, coming back to the ashes again, so Tommy's mother did get her ashes so that she could bury them. And then the way Tommy wanted it was that his ashes would go into necklaces, right? Boxing glove necklaces. And the reason why he wanted to do that, he was such a big Elvis fan that he had a TCB necklace. And then Sly gave him a DTA, Don't Trust Anyone necklace. And he wanted to bring out his DWI necklace because, he always said, I don't do reverse, deal with it. So DWI is going to be on his boxing glove necklaces with the ashes in there. And he wanted them, and this is what I will be doing, given, not sold, right, to friends and people that have really stuck with him in life and in death. And they will be given his ashes in the boxing gloves. And guess what? His mother wants one. Last week, she said she would love one. And so she will be getting a boxing glove necklace with Tommy's ashes in there too.
That's awesome, man. That's great. Yeah, I know he was a big Elvis fan. I noticed that on his trunks all the time. It's TCB and the Flash on it. I always noticed
Yeah.
that was always pretty cool. What a story, man. What a story. Let me ask you like just one more question now. So if you win the lawsuit, okay, and I know it's for a lot of money, okay, what are the, I mean, what are the odds that you think that you're going to get that money? You know what I mean? Or is the money even important right now? Is it just about clearing his name, or how does it, you know what I mean? Like,
It's not if we win, it's when we
yeah,
win, right?
okay,
And this lawsuit is for the estate of Tommy Morrison. It's not me.
right,
The winnings of the lawsuit, believe it or not, Tommy every day would say, all right, if I had that money, and he was talking mainly about purse money. And every day he would add up, he'd get a calculator and add up the interest that he was owed, right? And he would say, okay, today, if I had this money, this is what I would do. And every day he would add something to his list. And so I know exactly where every penny is going to go. And, if you remember, his career was to take care of his family. But also he was very, very keen on a boxer's retirement fund and taking care of people that were in boxing that could no longer afford to take care of themselves. And he never quite understood why there was never a pension for boxers. When we win this case, the estate, the monies will be distributed exactly the way Tommy wanted.
very
Wonderful.
good, very good,
Excellent.
man. Yeah, that's again, and I'm so glad you clarified that. And as far as like, what this is for and everything, because people think that you're doing this for one reason. It's
Yeah,
not that at all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the thing. I mean,
yeah,
that's part of that whole character assassination thing you talk about,
yeah,
you
that's
know?
right. Yeah, I mean, over 8 years, to me, for personal money reasons, absolutely not. For the estate, for what Tommy wanted, and to
Right.
exonerate his name, absolutely. And that's why we'll win, because we do have truth on our side. And the defendants and their counsel have done nothing but lie under oath and committed perjury. And I have told them that, and I've written that. This is nothing new. It is in court records. So it's now up to finally it coming clean and getting the media to actually start telling the world exactly what happened. Right now, they seem to be either scared or are being suppressed by the defendants.
Wow. So listen, man, if there's anything we can ever do for you, you just let us know. I mean, we're
Absolutely.
definitely behind the cause. We're both huge Tommy Morrison fans, and I'm glad we finally got to hook up here, man, because we've been talking for a couple months now, I think.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we've been talking for a couple of months trying to get something together. And man, I tell you what, we just appreciate the fact that you came on today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me explain there's always two, three sides of the story, as they say. What he said, what she said, and the truth. Well, what Tommy said is what Tommy said. What they said is what the Nevada Commission and the Quest say, and I'm the one bringing the truth. And that's exactly what I've done. It's on the table now. It was always there, but nobody wanted to tell it. But now, hopefully, yeah, I do need your help. I do need this to get out onto mainstream media. I need the world to know about this. This is very, very important. It's one of the biggest boxing blunders in the history of boxing. Tommy was kicked out of boxing just by the age of 27. Look at his record, his amateur record, his toughman record, his professional record, and he gets kicked out at 26, 27. You think he was a threat to Mike Tyson? You think he was some kind of a threat in boxing? Absolutely. So yeah, I think he would have done well and earned a lot more money for his family, for himself. He would have been in acting, boxing. He'd be here today.
Very good, man. Very good. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on here. We appreciate it. And stay in touch, okay? Let us know how everything's going.
And I just wanted to, I don't know if you can see his belts and everything, but
yeah, show that room around real quick. Yeah, show us that room real quick. Look at those belts.
And actually, this is the WBO belt, which was stolen from him in 2010. And the WBO were kind enough to send a replacement, which is really great. Awesome. And then you've got the other Razor Ruddock belt there. You've even got, I don't know if you can see it, you've got the Rocky V belt.
Oh, that's the Rocky V. It looks like the ring belt, doesn't it, Beeb?
Yeah,
well, the Rocky V.
It was the ring belt, wasn't it?
It was. They made a replica of the ring belt.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Can you see some of these others?
Yeah. The NABF belts and stuff like that. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful
and these are all. One thing that Tommy did say was that, the time that it took away from his life to get these belts away from his children. You can never replace that time. And so these belts, even though they meant something to him, didn't mean as much as losing time with his kids. So these belts are promised already to the kids. They're not for sale. Okay. Just want you to know that.
And just, I tell you what, as we're going on here throughout the chat, everybody, I mean, to a person in there, and our chat is completely brutal. If you watch me and Beeb on Sunday, they pile on us all the time. They have been nothing but supportive after listening to this. So it's been great. Yeah, it really has been.
Great. Okay, good. All right. Well, I appreciate your help, and let's see what happens.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Wish you the best.
All right.
Truly,
absolutely.
Truly mean
Thank
that.
you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Wow. What an interview, man. I tell you what, that's, you come in here, I wouldn't mind coming in here, but I know what I thought coming in here. You know what I mean? It's like, what is she doing? She's got, clearly he had HIV. It stands to reason he had HIV. And you go through this whole thing, and you're in your head, and you're watching all the news clips, the interviews and everything like that. Everybody and their mother is saying he had HIV. Come on. And she has no case. She's just, like many others, you think maybe it's a money grab. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. It's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. You know what I mean? That's not what she's doing this for. You know what I mean? Dwayne M is asking, where can I donate money? I'm going to ask Trisha if she wants to set up a GoFundMe page, and then I'll point you guys to it if she wants to do that, or if she already has something like that set up where you can help her pay for her legal fees and everything like that. And she doesn't even have a lawyer.
But she's got to pay. She's probably paying a ton of money to just get all that
sure.
Stuff. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but my point is, she doesn't have a lawyer, and she's like winning this case. In my mind, just the fact that it goes to the Court of Appeals and she's winning this thing, man. It's they're
supposed to do an RNA test. That's the last step for the confirmation, which actually, detects the DNA of the disease in your body. So
right.
They haven't done
so
that
listen,
yet.
man, if he had it, it'll show up. You know what I mean? And it would have showed up with I would think with all the tissue samples and everything like that they did with the autopsy. Everything like that, it would have showed up, and it didn't. And it's, again, man, you kind of feel like, if this goes this way and it stays the way we think it's going to stay, like, man, were we duped or what? Like, everybody was duped. And who cares about us? We're completely meaningless. Who cares if we get duped, But the fact is, like, this guy got duped. His family got duped, and then what do you, I don't know, man. It's one of those things where you think and you think you have an idea, but if you don't come in here with an open mind, it's never going to work. You're going to think, you're going to think what you're going to think. But once you talk to her and you figure out, there's nothing about her that would make me think otherwise after talking to her. You know what I mean? And I've seen her in interviews before, and there was nothing in those interviews that made me think, oh, wow, this girl's crazy. There's nothing, or you could tell she's definitely scheming. Not at all. You know, I mean, not even a little bit. And that's what, yeah, amazing, man. I tell you what, man, I hope she does it. And it sounds like she's got a really, really good case. I mean,
Very compelling.
Yeah.
Very compelling.
And why nobody's picking this up? No idea. No idea.
I know why, because no one wants to go against the grain, Eric. I mean, we've seen that, right?
That's true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, who wants to, and what that courage on her to know, like, I mean, she, whether it is or isn't, this is what she believes. This is her conviction. She's going to stand. This is the hill she wants to die on. You know what I mean? I'm standing here, and whether that truck is coming or not, I'm standing here. Yep. She goes against City Hall, the two biggest people in Nevada, and with Quest Diagnostics, one of the leading labs in the world. Reese Mack, you're right. She's very vexatious.
I think they are. I think they are the leading lab in the world.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, you kind of have to be vexatious to go up against those guys. And even more vexatious to win against those guys. And she's winning right now, I think.
Loquacious, vexatious.
Loquacious. Yeah, right. Vexatious, loquacious, cantankerous.
Got them all, baby.
That's it, man. Beeb's like a walking thesaurus over here.
Beeb was throwing the thesaurus at her. Do
you want to touch on this real quick, just about the Tyson Fury thing? Listen, guys, we don't know much about it. We don't know much about July 24th. Coppinger is reporting that, and I don't know. I thought Coppinger reported first, but who knows? Who cares? Listen, Coppinger is reporting, and he just wrote an article for ESPN on this, that fight is going to be delayed due to somebody in Fury's camp having COVID.
Well, he didn't say
some kind of. They didn't really say that.
He didn't say it was going to be delayed. Did you hear the rumor? Did you hear the rumor that the possible real story that's going on right now?
No.
Well, okay. So I had someone contact me about this.
Is this about poor ticket sales or something like that?
No. This is actually one of our sources that usually is right.
Okay.
This is just what he's,
okay.
Basically, let me just pull this up real quick because I got a text. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. So Isaac Lowe is the person who's in the camp. He's a featherweight. He's 21-0. He's part of like Tyson Fury's. He trains with Tyson Fury. Obviously, he's not going to spar with him, whatever, but he's one of Tyson Fury's training partners. He's the only one in the camp that's sick. Fury's not sick. No one else is sick. So he's sick. So, everyone else, from what I've been told, has been vaccinated. This is the only person that is sick. Okay. So this whole thing about an outbreak, only one person has it. So it's not an outbreak is more than one person. Okay. So what I was told is this person's the only one that's sick. Because someone that talks to the Fury camp, right. They messaged me, and that's what they told me. And Bob Arum is saying that he came out himself and said Fury wasn't sick. It was tweeted out that Fury's not sick, and as far as he knows, there's no change in the date. Deontay Wilder said the same thing. As far as he knows, there's no change in the date. So I think Coppinger jumped the gun here.
Coppinger did? You think he jumps the gun? Oh. Yeah.
And everyone went and made videos about it. As far as I know, this fight is still going to go off on July 24th. It's not gonna be postponed because one person got sick who's not even going to be fighting. All right. And then you can say, no, everyone's vaccinated, so you don't have to quarantine. Because if you're vaccinated and then you get the COVID test, you're okay. You don't have to quarantine. And even if you did have to quarantine, doesn't matter. You could the fight's what 3 weeks away, so it doesn't matter.
Well, you still got that 2-week incubation period, and you can still find out. So
fight's happening, everybody. So stop friggin', getting all nervous here, crying, whatever, trying to throw the conspiracy theory. Fury's trying to pull up. No, fight's gonna happen. One person sick. One person sick.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody's been vaccinated, I don't think it's a major issue.
So, as far as I'm concerned, I feel comfortable in saying that the fight's going to go on, but who knows? But In my opinion, I believe the fight's going to go on. I don't think just because one person in the camp outbreak. Fucking Carpenter, man. Fucking, can you believe I gotta stop because I gotta stop. I can't be like this anymore.
Oh, stop. He's got a family, Beeb. Come on.
I can't be like this. I don't want to be a hater, right? I don't want to be a hater anymore, but I don't trust Carpenter.
Yeah, that makes two of us. I don't really trust him either. What are you gonna do?
If you're vaccinated, you can still catch and spread COVID. Okay, it's very. I was told by a doctor, it's like you got a better chance of getting struck by lightning. Now I know Bill Maher got vaccinated and he had COVID and he had no symptoms. But here's the thing: if you don't have the a high viral load of the antibodies in your system, the chances of you passing it to someone is very, very hard and very rare. Okay. So of course they're going to continue to test Fury and Wilder all the way up until the fight. So
they got tested daily.
Yeah. You know? So they're getting tested frequently. Trust me. So you're not wrong in what you said, but let's put it in context. It can happen. But I can get struck by lightning walking out this door.
And I'm sure that guy's already on his way out of camp. You know what I mean? As soon as they found out he was gone.
He's gone.
And then I'm sure they tested everybody else.
They tested everyone else. So again, I'm confident in saying the fight will still go on.
Sneezy asked, why do you not have to quarantine? That's just the rules now. They said basically, if you have the shot and you've been exposed to COVID, you do not. I don't believe you have to quarantine. I think that's
if you're vaccinated and you've been exposed to it, you'll just take a COVID test. If you pass it, you're fine.
Yeah, that's it. So there it is, man.
That's it.
So that's the big news or non-news, if you will. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Did Ugas get stripped of the super title? I don't believe
we'll
so.
save that. We'll save that for Sunday. We'll say that. There's something going on here. There's supposed to be a hearing or something
for Ugas.
Yeah, with Pacquiao. They're trying to they're actually.
Oh yeah,
you heard about that, right? So
but I heard they were going to give him they promoted Ugas to the super title so they can give Pacquiao the regular title and it could be for a title. You can't defend a super title.
Well,
at least in the WBC, you can't. I don't know about the WBA. Everybody's got rules.
I was told that they're considering giving Pacquiao the full title back. They're talking about it. They're having a meeting of the commission, so to speak. The governing body's having the board of governors at the WBA. Supposedly, from what I heard, are having a meeting about it.
Can you imagine the brain power at that meeting?
But I hope they don't strip Ugas. But here's
that'd be
the
silly
thing.
If they did. You can't. How can you strip him? You just gave it to him.
But here's the thing. Like the difference, the people using the Thurman excuse, how Thurman was never stripped and he was out for 2.5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
But in Thurman's defense, he was injured. Okay. And also he was never stripped and given it back. So once you take it away, you shouldn't give it back.
No.
You can't Indian give the belt from it. Ugas is friggin' sick thinking about this. He's so upset.
Here's your super. You're now the super champion. Oh, wait a minute. 2 weeks later, you're not really the super champion. We forgot. We're gonna give it to this dude now.
It's not
who
fair.
Hasn't fought. You know. Yeah,
it's not fair, bro. It's not fair. I'm on Ugas' side here.
There it is. All right, guys, we're going to get running here, man. Stay tuned. We may have another show before Sunday, but then again, we might not. But if we don't, tune in on Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern, and we'll go over the fights this weekend and all that other good stuff and have all the news for you. So catch you guys soon.